Welcome to another episode of Meal Prep Monday. I'm your host, Allison Schaaf. Today, I'm talking about some of my 40-year-old goals and the importance of writing down your goals. Before I dive into the content, a quick reminder, if you have not tried our time-saving meal prep meal plans, head to prepdish.com/MPM. That's short for Meal Prep Monday, and you can try us out for 2 weeks for free. We have gluten-free, paleo, super fast, low carb plans, but more importantly, super delicious, healthy meals that your whole family will enjoy. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in today's episode. Okay, so for today, since we're still sort of in the New Year timeframe right now, I still have goals on my mind. And one thing I always like to do at this time of year is to look back in some of my old notebooks at previous goals, and just it's fun to see kind of where I've come. And it's funny how sometimes I'll have like an old journal or something pop up and I'll see something written in there that is really interesting. So I have two examples today. I will start quickly with the prep dish example, and then most of today I'm actually going to focus more on some personal goals that I set several years ago, specifically a travel goal. But the prep dish one, so this journal that I found was from 2016, and prep dish would have been a few years old. We're like turning 11 this year. But I wrote down a vision statement, and it says, Prep Dish is a community of thousands. We help busy people sit down to healthy, tasty meals and make more time for family. So that's it. I mean, pretty simple. But when I read back over that, this many years later, I feel like that's exactly what Prep Dish is still doing. And, it just really makes me happy and proud to see that we're still serving so many people and doing what I, set out to do so many years ago. And not only that, but I feel like me personally, like our family, we use the Prep Dish plan. So it's really fulfilling to know that, they've helped my family as well. And so many, friends and relatives over the years have tried Prep Dish and used it to, get those healthy, tasty family meals on the table. So cool to see that that's still there. And there are a lot of other little kind of like goals and mission statements and stuff that I wrote out in that journal that are, for the most part, still kind of playing out the way I had envisioned. What would that have been 7 years ago? So the other thing that I found in that journal, and that's why I'm going to talk about the importance of writing down goals, is I find if I write it down, yes, it's important to revisit, but I think sometimes just the act of writing it down kind of sets it in motion, even if you don't revisit it. And so the example I have is in this journal, I have this, I put travel, 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 and then I list out a bunch of places that I want to visit. So Australia, Machu Picchu, Vieques, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Brazil. So I have this like whole list. And I know in 2016, I did not go to all of those places, but looking back at that list, I'd say there's kind of like maybe a dozen on there. And I've been to like 9 out of the 12 places. And I remember the first time I looked back on this journal, it was so funny because some of them I'd forgotten that I'd ever, put in writing. I'm sure in the back of my mind, like that place was still there of like, oh, I'd like to visit, Costa Rica someday. But I do think there's something that happens when you put it in writing that is really powerful. And honestly, I don't even know, I don't have an exact date because I know this is in the beginning, like this isn't January 1. But this is a place where I have become a lot more flexible over the years in terms of one, any time of the year I can write out some, goals or plans or intentions. And even though I do like still to use the beginning of the year as a time to reflect and then look forward, I try not to put a lot of pressure on like January 1st. December, I do reflection. I really give myself the whole month of January, or depending on the year. Sometimes I do it more November, December. This year, it's been more January of like, where am I headed and what, sort of things do I want to put in writing? And so, kind of giving the flexibility to do that over time. But another thing I started doing years ago was and maybe I started it, I think I started it when I turned 29. So that would have been 11 years ago because I turned 40 within the last year. And I started doing birthday intentions because it hit me like, okay, yeah, January 1st, it's a new year. But to me, it's a lot easier in my head to track. Like if I have like a longer term goal, like a 5-year goal or a 10-year goal, it's a lot easier to track versus saying, oh, in 2027, I'm going to do this. No, when I'm, 42 years old, or, putting the age instead of the year, just kind of helped me with some bigger goals. And one of the big ones that I set back, again, I think it was when I don't know, or maybe it was when I was 30, around that time frame, I decided that I was going to visit 40 countries by the time I was 40 years old. And it was interesting because, of course, COVID hit. So I still had, I don't know, I think 4 countries left to go, because we kind of thought like we were going to do a Scandinavian trip, or, I kind of knew it'd be easy enough to knock out those last few countries. So I wasn't worried about it. But once COVID hit, I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to happen. And then we thought maybe it would, but then it looked, then international travel still, like, it just was not realistic for longer than probably anyone thought. So I'd kind of like written that off, and I was like, I guess I'll just try and do, 50 before 50. So I figured I would just try and do, 50 before 50 and not really worry about it. And just so we're getting ready to go on an international trip tomorrow. We're headed to Belize as I'm recording this. And I was like, oh, I should pull out that list again and just see like what number I'm at. Like maybe I'll hit, 40 before 41, or, just kind of curious to see that number. I don't always know like where I'm at on the number. So I pulled it out and I realized, so I turned 40 in May, and we took a trip this past summer, and that trip actually got me to 40. So I hit the 40 mark like 3 months after my birthday, or no, 2 months after my birthday, because it was May and the trip was July. And this trip I'm taking now will actually be 41. So now I'm actually hitting 41 before 41. And again, like, yeah, it's been a goal that's out there, but I wasn't heartbroken that I didn't reach it. It wasn't something that, oh my gosh, I really have to hit this, or, I wasn't like super attached to it. Of course, like it was fun. I threw it out there. I mean, honestly, the fun thing about a goal like that is just like, even if you don't hit it, it's a lot of fun along the way. Like travel is something that's really important to me and that I really enjoy. So I just knew like, hey, even if you get close, like how fun to visit, 35 countries, even if that's all you get to. So it wasn't this big thing, but I do find it so interesting that even if I don't come back and kind of like, quote unquote, like work towards it or anything like that, just by putting that goal down and setting that intention, so many years ago, how even when you kind of set it and forget it, it still ends up coming around. And I've set plenty of goals that I haven't hit, or I've written down things that I haven't. But again, like when I read through my journals, it's so interesting to see. And sometimes there'll be funny ones that like, oh, like next year I'm going to do XYZ. And I don't do it the next year, but like 5 years later, I look back at that journal like, oh, I did that. I just did it 5 years later than I thought I was going to do it. So I guess today it's kind of just an encouragement of, if you have some big dreams, small dreams, intentions, whatever you want to call them. I kind of like calling it daydreaming now more than goal setting. But, if there's something that you want to sit down and put pen to paper, I would really encourage you, if you have some different goals swimming in your head, to, pull out a journal and write some of those down. You can set a timeline, but don't be too attached to it, and it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I just think this time of year is a fun time to do that. And if any of you guys have like fun goals that you set, I don't know if anyone else, if you set birthday intentions, I would love to hear about that. So if you are in our Facebook group and you want to start a thread, go ahead and put in there any of your goals. I always love hearing what people are working towards. So, or shoot me a message on Instagram and let me know. That is all I have for today. But a quick reminder that if you have not tried our meal plans that are hopefully helping a lot of people sit down to healthier, tastier meals, just like I set out to do back in 2016, you can head to prepdish.com/MPM. Again, that's prepdish.com/MPM, and try it for 2 weeks. See if it's a fit. If not, just cancel, and no harm, no foul. But give it a try and see what you and your family think of the meals. That's all I have for this week. I will be back again next week with another episode.